Okay, did we start already? All right. Um, so lots of insight. Did not expect to do a video today, but I feel pretty. My makeup is done, and I went outside today. Oh my God, it was amazing. So I had a meeting today with someone who I met when I was performing a poem at Stormwater Studios in Columbia, South Carolina. It's actually like a new kind of art gallery. And one of my good friends and acquaintances, Al Black, actually had me perform at this event where Columbia, South Carolina has a sister city with Kaiserslautern, Germany, and the South Carolina Council on World Affairs actually arranged this arts exchange program that they've been doing for almost 20 years. So I was asked to do a poem there about walls. I've got so much lip gloss. Um, and it was to commemorate the 30-year anniversary of the Berlin Wall falling. So that poem is available. And how do I even post a link of that? Oh my God, I guess you would have to go to my Facebook page, and that's not open to the public. So maybe I'll put it on my blog. I'll have to separate and make different pages for my blogs because I still don't know what I'm doing with that. I kind of wanted it to be focused on one thing, but it's like I gotta write about sex, I gotta write about relationships, I gotta write about spirituality, and I gotta write about what education sometimes. Of course, it's all under the lens of me being a Black woman living with ADHD. So there's that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was um, I met this woman there. She is a professor in the Women and Gender Studies department. And I'm kind of like, I definitely have taken classes in my undergrad, related to that kind of programming. So I did my education at SUNY Empire State College, woohoo, online. So, I mean, I love it because I didn't really have to meet anybody and I really was only interacting with my professors when I needed to. So that was good for me. And I did a lot of writing. Writing was like the number one thing you had to do. There were no tests because everything was online. So writing was how you showed your knowledge. I thought it was fantastic for me. So I completed that degree, loved every bit of my education there. There were a couple classes that I didn't really like the professor or the curriculum, but for the most part, it was a wonderful experience. So I was a little familiar with women and gender studies because I took a course called Faith and Feminism, which was really interesting. It was like me kind of exploring different uh, prominent women in various religious kind of systems like Buddhism and things like that, Islam. And I thought it was just amazing because what I got to do was listen to a lot of women's stories and read a lot of women's stories and put that in my writing. So I was like, okay, this is pretty dope. Um, and I enjoyed it. So this professor is actually, trying to help me understand what I want to do in terms of higher education because I do feel like I belong in school, but I'm not sure that I really want to be um, in academia, like physically, like entrenched, if that makes sense. I don't know if I want to um, actually have to go to school other than online, but I still want to be able to take advantage of the resources and like show up in the building when I want to, but I don't want to have to be at school every day. Um, that's not going to work for me. And it's really important when you have ADHD that you know what kind of arrangements will work for you because not everything will. And I'm really sick and tired of beating myself up about that. Like, I'm on a self love journey, never to beat myself up about who God made me anymore. So, um, grad school. So she suggested that maybe I might want to get a graduate certificate in women and gender studies. Now, being that that is not a professional certificate, it's kind of, I don't know, I can get a graduate assistantship, meaning I can get paid and get a research assistantship or get paid to help someone do research if there's someone doing research in the department at the time. But if there isn't, then it's kind of like you're just going to be a teacher's assistant and you might get paid a little bit to do that. But I think it can be valuable experience. But she suggested that before I commit to a grad school or PhD program, that I really just take a few classes or go for the certificate. She offered to introduce me to some people in the department, which I thought was really awesome. I would definitely take her up on that offer. She says she loves mentoring and that's her passion, even more than teaching, which I completely get because teaching is like not even teaching anymore. And I may be different in higher ed, but I know that as a K through 12 teacher, teaching is it's social work, it's administrative work. It's I don't know what it is, but it's barely what you think it is. It's, if you've never been in the teaching field or if you don't remember what school was like, it's not what I thought. So she loves mentoring, and I noticed that when I was working with my mentor online, I'll never forget her, Miss Monroe. She was actually amazing and made me feel like I wanted to be in higher ed. But of course, they want you to have a grad degree if you're going to be at least a master's degree if you're going to be mentoring students in a college kind of setting. So, with that said, I have things to think about, right? So, I'm expressing to her my fears. She's telling me her journey and her story. We had a really good kind of bonding time, and it gave me an opportunity to do something new today, which I'm realizing that as someone who has ADHD, doing something new several times a week is painfully crucial for me to feel alive and like my life is worth something. Um, so, no wonder and I'm not exaggerating. So no wonder when I go into jobs that are routine and I have to see the same place every day, I begin to feel like life is not worth living. And I begin to wonder if my life has any direction or meaning. And I begin to wonder what is the point of it all? Like, why am I here if I'm not experiencing something new? Because that's what makes me feel alive. And that's what makes me feel like like life is meaning something to me because I'm talking to different people and that's really important to me. So um watched a couple of YouTube videos today as I'm in the car just researching, following up on her and our conversation. I sent her some pieces from my blog, namely the one that went viral, the one where I went top free in Union Square. Uh, and, that was years ago, but I sent her that, a couple of other blog pieces that pertain to what we talked about. And I said, thanks, because I really will follow up with everything that you're saying. She gave some really awesome suggestions about who I should kind of know and talk to. The strange thing is that even while she's saying all this, she's talking about the university that she's working at, and she's talking about like, people that she knows around town. And I'm not even sure that I want to even pursue school in the same state. Like, as I went to a cafe to just kind of grab a cup of coffee and a bagel because I hadn't really eaten dinner, and I probably won't eat dinner tonight. Um, but decaf coffee, by the way. um, and I'm not really that hungry. But yeah, as I go to this cafe that's in the area and it's a really cool vibe, I'm like, I should just try to save up $1,000 and go to Paris and just with no plan. I think about things like that a lot, and I realize it makes me actually feel really alive to think like that, and it makes me feel like there's no hope when I don't feel like it's a possibility to start something new. That's really a constant theme for me. Like, I need to remember that and, like, not get discouraged and realize that a lot of my depression or depressive feelings may come from simply not injecting myself into a new experience. Like, novel and new is what stimulates my brain. So I need to do that, or else if your brain is not stimulated, you're brain dead. So what are you? You're in a coma. So that's why I could be walking around feeling like, oh my God, like what's the point of anything? Which is some of the ideas of someone who is depressive. They were thinking like, what's the point? I might as well just die right now because there's nothing happening. Like my life is not going anywhere. So that's really interesting. So I watched some videos in the car and I was looking up good careers for people with ADHD. And there's a couple of people who've done videos on this. One guy named several career options for people who have ADHD. He mentioned journalism, which I'm involved in, but nobody talks about like, okay, how are you going to make money in journalism? That's not something you just might jump into and get a job right away. It's not like going to be a waiter or waitress where you could easily do that and probably make enough money to support yourself, depending on what city you live in and depending on, the amount of tips you're able to get. But getting into the field of journalism and making a living to support yourself is probably something even the most focused person couldn't do at this point in time. right away without building up contacts and without maybe working their way into a staff job, which I mean, those jobs are very few now. So a lot of people make their living in journalism freelancing. And again, I mean, if there's not a lot of jobs in America, then there's even fewer of those jobs for women, and there's even fewer of those jobs for Black women. So I think that's always important to keep that in mind. And when I'm looking at people in other countries or people who look different than me talk about what career options are, I always think about these other barriers. And it's really not to place some kind of like pity party on myself. It's really so that I can keep things in perspective about what opportunities will be available to me. You'll look at even some of the most well-paid and celebrated Black journalists today talk about their journey and how racism is so involved and discrimination is so involved in the world of journalism because it's really difficult to change long-standing traditions, even if they're racist and they need to be changed today. So you can always have your own blog and you can always freelance, but to look at it as something where, yeah, you're just gonna go be a journalist and that's what you're gonna do today, and tomorrow you'll have a job and the next day you'll just be fine. And it's like, I don't know. For me, it didn't work like that. He talked about being a hairstylist. I didn't go be a hairstylist or a cosmetologist, but I did work as a receptionist in a salon. And I will say I didn't like it because I didn't like the level of subservience that I was expected to have. I talk about this a lot, like the power dynamics in different kind of service-based jobs. I saw how the hairstylist treated me and other assistants, and I saw how it was very competitive. It didn't have a collaborative kind of feel a lot of times, and it also there's a lot of drugs, um, and it just was a very cutthroat environment, which did kind of keep it exciting. The fast pace kept it exciting, but for me, there just wasn't enough respect in that position for me. So there's that. Um, so what else? They talked about he talked about being a doctor, and it's like, okay, it's great to suggest that as a career option, but all the things that you'll have to go through up until that point and the things that will be expected of you